This page is the front cover of Total 64 magazine, Volume 1, Issue 9. It features NFL Quarterback Club 98, promising a full preview of Acclaim's new American football simulation. The cover highlights a special offer of free Nintendo stickers and a Doom tips book, with the magazine priced at £2.50. Reviews for games like Bomberman 64, Extreme G, Mace, The Dark Age, Top Gear Rally, F1 Pole Position, and Dynamite Soccer are advertised. It also teases the chance to win the entire Fire International 1064 range. Finally it asks, cover book and stickers missing? Ask your newsagent. The next page is a full-page advert for Acclaim's Extreme G on the Nintendo 64. It features an image of a man with a distorted expression. The tagline reads, "Acceleration so fast it hurts, so why do it?" This page is the editorial introduction to the magazine. It welcomes the reader to the new improved biological world of Total 64, referencing a recent price change of £1.45, which is hoped to be sorted out, and that the magazine now has more pages with quality N64 titles. It makes a self-referential joke about the magazine having 114 pages. It also contains an image of Yoshi from the Mario series, and an image of people playing football. The next page is the contents page for Total 64 magazine, Issue 9. It showcases a selection of games reviewed in this issue, including Extreme G, a superfast racer from Acclaim, and Mace, The Dark Age, set in a dark stage of history. F1 Pole Position is also featured, letting you smell the burning rubber on the N64. There's also Bomberman 64, GQ World Soccer 3, Top Gear Rally, Dynamite Soccer, and finally Doom 64, the daddy of all first-person shooters. There's also a competition to win Fire International, on page 34. This page is the contents page for Total 64 magazine, Issue 9. It gives a sneak peek at the features inside. First looks include Diddy Kong Racing, Rare's Christmas surprise bound to bring joy, Zelda 64, the eagerly anticipated game, F-Zero, the SNES classic, Yoshi's Story, where Yoshi is back but in 2D, Earthworm Jim 3D, bringing the crazy worm into a new dimension, Conker's Quest, another offering from Rare, and Tonic Trouble, a game about repairing the upset caused by a liquor-loving character. Features include an ECTS report, The Art of Fighting, tying into the Mace, The Dark Age review, and Shigeru Miyamoto, taking an in-depth look at the man behind N64 games. There's also a tips section for Multi-Racing Championship. Regulars include editorial, news, reviews intro, reviews roundup, and peripherals update. Other features are the firing line, the cheat zone, subscriptions, back issues, next month, and sign off. The next page kicks off with a news section declaring Total 64 news and playfully stating, "I love my cats." This news roundup includes European release dates for several N64 games. August sees NBA Hangtime and Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey. September brings Blastcore. October has Doom 64 and Star Fox 64. Lilac Wars bundled with the Rumble Pack. November teases F1 Pole Position 64, Top Gear Rally, WC, W vs NW World Tour, and GoldenEye. December lists Banjo and Kazooie, Hexen, War Gods and Mission Impossible. Lastly, the fourth quarter of '97 mentions Blade and Barrel, Quake 64, Reverend Limit, Clay Fighter 63 1/3, and Extreme Egg. The news also touches on a Pikachu game, Pikachu Genki Dechu, where you can become friends with Pikachu by talking and playing with him. The game, developed in conjunction with Umbrella, reportedly allows you to talk to Pikachu using a voice input method. Screenshots show a microphone icon. Finally, there's a Freakout segment announcing that Midway is bringing BioFreaks to the N64, a fighting game that allows fighters to sidestep and fly or hover, and is expected after Mortal Kombat 4. This page has a couple of news items. Firstly, Mortal Kombat 4 is coming to the N64, being converted from the arcade version apparently. Eurotom and Midway are working together, but the N64 version is expected to be a year away, in order to maximize the shelf life of the arcade game. The game format has been brought up to date, with Midway opting for a three-dimensional battle arena and a more classical style of fighting. Secondly, Sony has secured a deal to keep Lara Croft and Tomb Raider exclusively on the PlayStation, which is bad news for Nintendo, who had hoped to make a Tomb Raider-style game for the N64. There's also a release date section with Extreme Egg, Clay Fighter 63 1/3, Top Gear Rally, and NFL Quarterback Club 98 coming in October. November sees MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero, Madden 64, San Francisco Rush, Duke Nukem 64, Robotron 64, Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey 98, and Diddy Kong Racing released. And finally, Bomberman 64 and NBA in the Zone 98 in December. This page starts with Rise and Fall of the Robotech, suggesting the game may be cancelled after facing development issues and delays. The article mentions Don Rotiers from Gamatech, saying that the game only has one person working on it, while the rest of the team focuses on other games. The next article is about Konami's slam dunk N64, namely NBA in the Zone 98, which is set to be the latest game from the makers of ISS Soccer 64. This should bring motion-captured players and full NBA stats to the N64. 64-Bits features news that Cruising World is confirmed for the N64. Midway is looking to improve on the original Cruisin' USA after the arcade sequel has done good business. Also, Acclaim is partnering with Gold Key and Playmates Toys for Turok, Dinosaur Hunter merchandise. There is also an upcoming games section with a long list of titles, including Actua Golf, Buggy Boogie, Command & Conquer, Creator, Cruisin' World, Daikatana 64 and more to come, and Japanese release dates mention games such as J-League Dynamite Soccer 64 and JIKU World Soccer 3 ISS 64 for September. This page is a full-page advert for GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64, touting the player as James Bond, directing the action. It boasts detailed gameplay, numerous assassination methods, missions, and gadgets. It also highlights the Rumble Pack feature for immersive feedback and promotes the use of the analog controller. The next page kicks off with a news update, focusing on two main games, Tamagotchi Hatches from N64, and Capcom's plans for N64. The article highlights Tamagotchi Minade's Tamagotchi World, noting it is being developed by Hudson in cooperation with Nintendo, with the game taking on a 2D RPG board game style featuring the lovable characters. The article also notes there are no plans to release the game in the US. On the Capcom front, Resident Evil type game is mentioned, along with Ghouls and Ghosts 64, as yet unnamed puzzle game, and a Street Fighter title, with the final title being possibly something described as a sound novel. The page also includes a list of upcoming games for the N64, split into release months, including October with Hexenange League 11 Beat 1997, November with 64 Uzumo, Chameleon Twist and Yoshi's Story, and December with games like Hashiboku no Uma, Hyper Olympic in Nagano and Sonic Wings Assault. And then a final fourth quarter 97 section with Aero Gauge, Dual Heroes, Famista 64, Kirby's Air Ride, Legend of Zelda 64, Legion X Macross, Another Dimension, Magic Century L-Tail, Tamagotchi 64, Toucan Road, Brave Spirits and Virtual Pro Wrestling Ultra Battle. Screenshots of Tamagotchi appear on the page too, along with a character holding a gun. This page delves into N64 news, starting with Konami's Hybrid Heaven, likened to Metal Gear Solid with RPG elements. The storyline involves a genetic experiment gone wrong on a space station, resulting in a creature crashing to Earth and forming an army of mutants. The player controls a commando tasked with stopping this threat. Next up is Zelda 64, where Shigeru Miyamoto discusses Rumble Pack compatibility for puzzles and potential gameplay changes, including Link possibly growing up during the game, which is subtitled, A Link to the Future. Weapons will have multiple uses, and despite being a large cartridge, the game's price should remain reasonable. Finally, there's a snippet on a golf game, T&E Soft's Augusta Masters 98, after Gremlin stated they have no intentions to release Actua Golf on the N64. The game promises a realistic approach with TV camera angles and commentary, but there's no UK release date yet. The next page of Total 64 is packed with N64 news. First up, Red Lemon, a Scottish developer, is working on Aeronauts for the N64, originally a PlayStation and PC game. It's described as a competitive multiplayer game, loosely based on Pilot Wings, set in a futuristic prison world where prisoners compete in deadly Olympics for a reduced sentence. Expect multiple events, including aerial races with weapons and a 4-player mode. Then we have a section about cheaper software in North America, thanks to Nintendo reducing manufacturing costs for third-party titles. This should result in a $10 saving for gamers, as Nintendo claims to have 53% of the US market. Mario 64 has sold 2.5 million copies in North America alone, with Star Fox, Mario Kart and GoldenEye also selling well. Finally, RPG fans rejoice. Zelda 64, Mother 3, and a promising title called Quest are on the horizon, with Quest definitely getting an English translation. Unlike the others, Quest will feature a brand new story in 3D, with magical spells using the elements of fire, water, air, and earth. It could be the first English translated RPG on the N64, slated for an early 1998 release in America. This page is a full-page advertisement for the Pocketbook of Nintendo 64 Hints and Tips, Volume 1 from Rapide Publishing. It promises secrets, strategies, and solutions for the biggest N64 games, including Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, Super Mario 64, and Wave Race. There's a mail-in order form with a price of £10.99, which includes postage and packing. This page kicks off with Big in Japan. Nintendo of Japan's profits are up 240% in 6 months, thanks to a Game Boy title, specifically Pocket Monsters, which has sold over 3 million copies. There's also a cartoon strip called The Adventures of Nintendo, a comical sketch of go-karting characters. The page also contains a small advertisement for trade-ins, are available on PlayStation, Saturn, Nintendo 64, Mega Drive, and SNES, from £7 including P&P. Console Exchange is advertising a phone number and address for those interested. Then, there's news about the US64DD release date, with rumors swirling around the internet. Nintendo denies the release date, but sources say it'll launch at the next E3 show in Atlanta in mid-June, with a Japan release in November and a March 1998 launch for Europe and Australia. Finally, there's an announcement about Gasp, a new fighting game. Konami has released shots of their upcoming beat-em-up and billed the game as the only true 3D fighting game for the N64 and will be released in March 1998. This page features a retrospective on a Lilac Wars national competition. The author, Aaron Taylor, recounts his experience participating in the event, from attending the regional heats to competing in the final. He mentions his mate Ben also made it to the final, and the event was filmed by Sky Television. He talks about using Fox McCloud in the final, his mistaken attempt to gang up on another player, and his eventual defeat by Ben. He ends by noting that the winner's prize was £1,800, while he only won a pocket Game Boy. Screenshots from Lilac Wars are featured. The next page is a first look at Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer is impressed, suggesting it could rival Mario Kart 64 as the best racing game of the year. They highlight the 4-player compatibility and the unique feature allowing players to use cars, hovercraft, and planes, with characters not restricted to specific vehicle types. The game is expected to be released in time for Christmas, with 8 characters and the possibility of secret ones. This page presents a first look at Diddy Kong Racing. The page opens with a large look graphic featuring Mario's head, signaling the importance of the game. The reviewer highlights the player select screen, showcasing characters like Diddy Kong and Timber, while also mentioning brand new characters like Tip Top. Screenshots showcase gameplay across different tracks, including races through tropical paradises and other varied environments in 4-player mode. The reviewer notes that Rare is working hard to produce top titles, and hopes that Diddy Kong Racing will offer surprises as good as it looks. The page emphasizes the inclusion of 25 new tracks, setting it apart from Mario Kart 64, which has 16 tracks. The game also allows the racers to use cars, hovercrafts and planes. The next page delves into Zelda 64. The article begins by proclaiming it as one of the finest RPGs of all time, poised to take the gaming world by storm. The text discusses how the original Zelda on the SNES revolutionized RPGs. The article touches upon the development history, noting that the game was initially intended for the 64DD, but ultimately shifted to a cartridge-based format. It emphasizes Shigeru Miyamoto's significant involvement in the development. Several screenshots accompany the text, showcasing early visuals of Link and gameplay environments, suggesting a similar feel to Mario 64, but with more detail. The reviewer also points out that Link's appearance has shifted from the more cartoonish style of previous games. The traditional storyline of Link saving the princess from Ganon is mentioned. Cartoon. This page is a first look at the eagerly anticipated Zelda 64. The reviewer believes it's going to be massive, coming on a huge 256 megabit cartridge, the biggest ever at the time. Screenshots show Link in various environments, including a dimly lit passageway and riding a horse. The reviewer jokes that it would be faster if Link actually rode the horse instead of leading it. The text notes that the game will likely feature a lot of Japanese text, but hopes for a quick English translation. The next page is a first look at F-Zero 64. touted as Nintendo's potential Wipeout beater. The reviewer acknowledges stiff competition from other Wipeout titles and acclaims Extreme G. F-Zero64 promises advanced tracks, improved graphics, and a greater number of opponents compared to the original. The inclusion of shortcuts and turbo boosts is mentioned, along with the exciting news of a 4-player split-screen mode. Screenshots showcase the game's futuristic racing action. The next page is a preview of 064, building on the original with futuristic tracks and breakneck speeds. The reviewer is impressed by the graphics and the high number of cars on screen without slowdown, noting the potential for high-speed crashes. They can't wait for the multiplayer mode and suggest that if you like high-speed racing, this game is for you, but until its release early next year, Mario Kart will have to do. This page is a preview of Yoshi's Story for the Nintendo 64. It emphasizes the game's return to 2D gameplay, despite being on a 64-bit system. The graphics are described as colorful and detailed, giving the game a surprising amount of depth. The reviewer acknowledges that some may see the 2D approach as a step backwards, but they believe Nintendo can make it work, especially with Shigeru Miyamoto's involvement. There are screenshots showcasing the game's unique visual style, with backgrounds resembling embroidery and trees that look like foil balloons. The reviewer also mentions that the original Yoshi's Island was overlooked on the SNES due to the release of other consoles, but this new adventure will hopefully get more attention when it is released in Japan in November. The next page offers a first look at Earthworm Jim 3D for the Nintendo 64. The article describes Earthworm Jim, star of his own cartoon series and 2 previous games, making his 64-bit debut. The screenshots showcase the transition to a 3D environment, with Jim maintaining his wacky antics. The text mentions that fans of the series will be familiar with the game's bizarre sense of humor. The article highlights Jim's trademark moves, such as using his head as a whip and swinging from platforms. The game will consist of 5 levels, each divided into several parts, and one level may see Jim going back to his 2D roots. The article concludes by questioning whether Earthworm Jim has what it takes to compete with the likes of Mario 64, with the game set to be released in the spring. This page offers a first look at Conker's Quest, a game drawing comparisons to Banjo-Kazooie and Mario. The game stars a lovable nut-collecting squirrel named Conker, whose goal is to retrieve presents. The reviewer is impressed by the bright and colorful world. The 3D graphics are similar to Mario, but with more detail. Conker can whip enemies with his tail and pick up items, and will also use vehicles. The review notes Rare's recent successes with titles like Blast Corps and GoldenEye. The game selection screen is presented as a children's storybook. The release date has been pushed back to next spring due to the announcement of Diddy Kong Racing. The next page offers a first look at Tonic Trouble, originally titled Ed, a 3D platform/adventure game from Ubisoft that is described as being very much in the mold of Mario 64. The lead character, Ed, has an unfortunate accident involving booze that causes havoc on Earth, and it's his job to fix the mess. The game promises unusual characters, cartoon graphics, and intriguing gameplay. The developers are the same team behind Rayman. The reviewer notes that the artwork looks excellent and expresses hope that the in-game graphics will live up to this standard. The next page is an ECTS show report. It covers the European Computer Trade Show, with 250 exhibitors showing their wares. The big 3, Sony, Sega and Nintendo, were all there. The reviewer mentions games such as GoldenEye, Lilat Wars, Blast Corps and Diddy Kong's Racing, and expresses disappointment at not seeing Nintendo's biggest Christmas release in action, obviously a Mario Kart beating game. They also mention Mario 64 and Wave Race. Cheshin. This page is a show report from the ECTS, focusing on third-party developers like Acclaim. The reviewer notes Nintendo's surprisingly small presence despite having 250,000 N64s in the UK. Acclaim's stand was bold. The reviewer discusses Acclaim needing to restore credibility after Turok, mentioning Extreme G and NFL Quarterback Club. Forsaken, a first-person shooter for PlayStation and PC, is also mentioned. The Konami stand had a white, functional design and a stunning ice sculpture promoting Nagano Winter Olympics. Extreme Fighting, an anime-style beat-em-up, and the ISS series are also mentioned. The next page is another show report from ECTS with a focus on N64 titles. International Superstar Soccer Deluxe on the N64 is speculated. Quake is mentioned as a highlight, praised for its dark atmosphere. San Francisco Rush also makes an appearance, with some unfortunate graphical glitches. The reviewer expresses disappointment at the small showing from Nintendo, particularly the absence of Zelda 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and Yoshi's Story. Mace, The Dark Age, Duke Nukem, and Doom 64 are mentioned, but failed to impress. It mentions Nintendo relying on British designers for new releases, and mentions Bomberman 64, Mission Impossible and Hybrid Heaven as titles coming soon. This page is an ECTS show report focused on N64 games. FIFA, Road to the World Cup, while based on a PlayStation version, is considered an improvement over the original FIFA 64. Chameleon Twist impresses with its unique tongue-based gameplay, reminiscent of Yoshi, allowing the player to eat and harvest as many as 13 enemies. Extreme G is mostly finished with music and 4-player mode. NFL Quarterback Club impresses with its highest graphics, similar to an FMV intro. Nagano Winter Olympics features downhill skiing and other winter sports. Extreme Fighting, Konami's entry into 3D fighting games with manga-style characters, is in early development. Quake on the Doom 64 engine adds more freedom of control. San Francisco Rush is an arcade port with extra features. This page is a preview of the game NFL Quarterback Club 98 for the N64. The page jokingly mentions how the N64 is set to be inundated with a grand total of 2 American football games. It features an image of a quarterback in action, with some commentary on the rules of American football from a British perspective. This page showcases a preview of NFL Quarterback Club 98, which is trying to tackle John Madden's series as the top American football game. Acclaim now has exclusive rights to the NFL license, which includes teams and player names. The reviewer expresses appreciation for the number of options available in the game, and how accessible the developers have made it. NFL Quarterback 98 is noted as the first game to use the N64's highest mode, 640 by 480, producing clean and crisp graphics. The reviewer remarks that the game runs smoothly, dispelling concerns about processing power. The animations are also praised, and the game boasts a replay facility. The next page continues the preview of NFL Quarterback Club 98, highlighting the variety in player animations and the ways players can get injured. The game aims for a realistic, almost TV-like feel. There are many options, including the chance to draft players, use existing teams, or create custom ones. The page also mentions a quick start option for those eager to jump straight into a game, along with options for a full NFL season, playoffs, and customizable tournaments. A historic sim option is shown, which features a game from 1988. There are also a range of camera angles available to view the action. This page features a continuation of the NFL Quarterback Club 98 preview, focusing on the game's comprehensive play selection, statistical depth, and historical scenarios. It mentions the game's selectable weather conditions, such as rain, snow, hot, and cold, each impacting gameplay. The replay function is highlighted as offering various camera positions, and the reviewer anticipates a positive reception for the game upon its release. The page also features screenshots of the game, and includes team logos, such as the Indianapolis Colts, Denver Broncos, Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings, and Green Bay Packers. This page is a competition to win a set of Fire International goodies, including a steering wheel. To enter, you need to answer 3 questions, together. 1. What range of accessories do Fire International make? Blaze, Inferno, Sparks, Flames. 2. In which type of game would you use a steering wheel? Strategy, puzzle, platform, driving. 3. Name the missing element. Earth, water, air, and minerals. Blood, chocolate, sandwiches, fire. Entries can be sent via postcard, sealed envelope, or email to total64@rapide.co.uk. The closing date is December 5, 1997. The page also includes images of Fire International accessories, like a memory card. 1905. The next page introduces the Truth Review system from Total 64, aiming to provide honest opinions after experiencing the horror of buying a duff game. They stress that game scores are based on the team's overall opinions. The Picks of the Bunch section highlights top games this month, noting the arrival of Extreme G and Mace, with GoldenEye still a favorite. The review scores range from 91,100%, cream of the crop, like Mario 64 and GoldenEye, down to 020%, so bad it's gathering dust. The page then lists Chris hits of the 80s marks, Justin Chicken Fried Calvert's, Nicka Just Do Eyes Jones, Ali Poor Boy Feltons, and Answer You Know Gung Fu, huh? Graces, Personal top 5 games in order with games like GoldenEye, Extreme G, ISS Soccer 64 Mace, The Dark Age, Top Gear Rally, and many more, which is followed by the new Total 64 award for games surpassing expectations with a score of 95% or better. This page features a review of Extreme G, a futuristic racing game, highlighted by the magazine as a new arrival, and the reviewer states, "If you like Wipeout, you will probably like this." The review is accompanied by several in-game screenshots, showing off the game's high-speed racing and track designs. The article also mentions that races take an enormous amount of courage. Borgu. The next page continues the Extreme G review, comparing it to Wipeout, and Fuzero, stating Extreme G exceeds the brilliance of Wipeout. It showcases various screenshots highlighting the game's graphics, track designs, and the 4-player split-screen mode. The reviewer praises the graphics and track design, noting the multiple routes available. It implied Extreme G is a worthy contender in the futuristic racing genre, with dramatic tracks and a high-speed experience. The next page of this magazine features a review of Extreme G for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer starts by expressing their love for the motorbikes in the game, giving short descriptions of the Apollon, Grimace, Jolt, and Khan bikes. Nick's comment section raves about the game, mentioning how it blows away the cobwebs of other games and compares it favorably to Wipeout on the PlayStation. The review highlights the game's speed, graphics, and track design while showcasing screenshots of gameplay, including a 4-player split-screen view, and emphasizing the game's weapons system. It describes Extreme G as a fast and furious rollercoaster of a racer, and notes its techno soundtrack, although perhaps not as high standard as Wipeout's. The reviewer further mentions the game's 4-player modes, time trials, and championship mode, concluding that it's the best racer on the N64 to date. There is a section dedicated to G-Force, with the reviewer noting how the tracks give an incredible feeling of speed. This page dives deeper into the Extreme G review, showcasing more bikes with snazzy names like Mame, Muga, Rana, and Raze, each with its own strengths and weaknesses from acceleration and handling to weaponry. The review highlights the track design, describing the intense speed and jumps, and the weapon pickups are like the Millennium Falcon getting ready for hyperspace. The reviewer suggests the game offers a sense of speed unlike anything else on home consoles. They also recommend use of the Rumble Pack to get that extra bit of immersion. The next page continues the Extreme G review, detailing its multiplayer capabilities and weapon arsenal. It praises the programmers for minimizing slowdown in the 4-player mode, though it notes that the screen can feel a bit cramped when split into quarters. The reviewer likens the game's weapon system to Wipeout, highlighting a variety of offensive and defensive options. These include the mortar rocket, rear-firing rocket, power shield, tractor beam, wally warp, morning star, laser limpet mine, proximity mine, ion side cannons, and even invisibility. The reviewer believes the addition of weapons adds a layer of chaos and excitement to the races, making it possible to go from first to fourth place in a matter of seconds. This page features a continuation of the Extreme G review for the N64, with screenshots and descriptions of gameplay elements. The review highlights the game's fast-paced futuristic racing and its effective weapon system. The Meltdown section praises the game as a must-have for N64 owners, comparing it favorably to Wipeout in terms of speed and excitement. The review emphasizes that the game is challenging with rewarding tracks, and the multiplayer mode adds to the game's overall quality. The Verdict section summarizes key details of Extreme G, including the publisher, Acclaim, developer, Probe, and its 4-player capabilities. It's a futuristic racer that was released in November. The page then showcases the various power-ups available in the game, such as shield recharge, static pulse, phosphor flare, standard rocket, multiple needle missiles, flame exhaust, invulnerability, and homing missile, each with a short description of their effects on gameplay. The review concludes with scores for graphics, 94, sound, 93, playability, 93, and an overall score of 94. This page features a review of Mace, The Dark Age for the N64. The reviewer laments the lack of quality beat-em-ups on the console, referencing Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Killer Instinct Gold as disappointments, and even Dark Rift as nothing special. The article describes the game's premise as being set in the year 1300, where fighters are on a quest for the Mace of Tanis, which is the source of Asmodeus's power. Mordos Kul is said to be slow and weak. The page also shows screenshots of the game, showing different fighters and stage hazards like lava and water. The reviewer notes that the water is not very exciting, but makes a nice splashing sound, and the lava is of course dangerous to your health. The next page continues the review of Mace, the Dark Age, and contrasts it with Tekken, noting that Mace offers a fully interactive three-dimensional environment. The reviewer also draws comparisons to Mortal Kombat, highlighting similarities in character control and the presence of finishing moves. The reviewer considers Mace to be a far superior game compared to MK. Screenshots display the game's characters and stages, showcasing the spectacular moves and effects, with amazing lighting and realistic-looking shadows. The page mentions stage hazards, including spikes, electricity, water, quicksand, and acid, and how they impact gameplay. This page features a review of Mace, the Dark Age, showcasing the game's over-the-top fatalities. Al-Rashid is shown chopping off limbs and heads, while Namira shrinks opponents and bottles them for eternity, or rips out a still-beating heart. The reviewer notes the interactive 3D environments and hazards, comparing the game to Mortal Kombat and Tekken, and noting it as being arguably the first game on the 32-bit consoles, or the N64, to realize a fighting game in true 3D. This page features more on Mace, the Dark Age, emphasizing the game's interactive 3D environments with hazards like rotating blades, lava, and electricity, water. The reviewer, Ali, praises the weapon-based characters and gruesome executions, acknowledging inspiration from Mortal Kombat, but noting Mace goes over the top with blood. Few of the screenshots depict Koyasha losing his head, and Mordros Cole fighting outside a castle. The page also introduces Spanky, the wooden practice doll who has had a kick me sign pinned on his back as a joke. Ali concludes that the game is a superb beat MUP, though not quite up to par with Tekken. The next page is a review of Mace, the Dark Age for the Nintendo 64. It highlights aspects like cheat codes, including Big Noggin mode and Micro mode, where you can play with tiny characters, and even play as a chicken called Pojo. It showcases gameplay screenshots of Xiaolong performing a leg sweep move, reminiscent of Mortal Kombat, and also breakdance moves. The review acknowledges the game's style is similar to other fighting games, but claims it has its own identity. There's mention of a significant amount of blood and gore, and some controversial fatalities. The reviewer notes that the control system is similar to Soul Blade, but is a little clunky. The page then introduces some of the characters: Al-Rashid, a king of assassins in training; Blood Axe, a Viking; Grendel, a lava creature and sub-boss; Koyasha, a deadly ninja; Lord Deimos, and Takashi, seeking revenge for his brother. This page continues the review of Mace, the Dark Age on the Nintendo 64, emphasizing its 3D arenas that stand out from the Tekken style, mentioning you can pick up and throw items. The reviewer notes the combo-oriented gameplay and compares the game's style to titles like Mortal Kombat and Soul Blade, but praises its unique identity. Screenshots capture in-game action with characters like Namira and Xiaolong. The review gives the game an overall score of 89%, with specific ratings for graphics, 85%, sound, 78%, and playability, 89%. Character introductions also include Tyria, a high priestess; Executioner, who enjoys torturing people; and Xiaolong, a warlord's son. The next page reviews F1 pole position on the Nintendo 64, claiming it hopes to be the best N64 racing game. The page features screenshots from the game, highlighting its graphics and gameplay. The review mentions the thrill of Formula 1 racing, describing the cars and high speeds involved. It playfully suggests that playing the game allows one to live out their F1 fantasies. It closes by saying that it is the only official F1 game on the N64, Formula 1 Grand Prix 64. The next page reviews F1 pole position on the Nintendo 64, diving straight into the Formula 1 license and its potential. The review compares it to the PlayStation sim of the same name, noting its popularity. They express some skepticism about racing games in general, finding them a bit repetitive. However, the reviewer acknowledges improvements in the game engine, specifically mentioning reduced slowdown and no pop-up. Screenshots showcase the in-game graphics, and quotes add some commentary, like, "There's been a huge pile-up at Spoon Corner, and this camera angle takes you right down to the level of the tarmac." The page also features On the Starting Grid, showing images of drivers like Damon Hill, David Coulthard, Jacques Villeneuve, Eddie Irvine, Jean Alesi, Johnny Herbert, Martin Brundle and Michael Schumacher, highlighting that the game includes all drivers from the 96-97 season. This page continues the review of F1 pole position on the Nintendo 64, kicking off with Justin's comment, expressing initial high hopes that faded due to incremental improvements. It notes the selection of courses, all from the 96-97 season, with screenshots of Hockenheim, Interlagos and Monaco. The review touches on various game modes, including a battle mode, which is a nice feature. The reviewer believes the game falls between simulation and arcade racing, not quite nailing either. They mention improved AI, variable weather, and realistic touches like driver retirements, but the fact that the teams are a year out of date is a letdown. Screenshots also highlight the cockpit view and some in-game action like, "And it's go go go," showing cars on the track. This page concludes the F1 pole position review. The reviewer points out the variety of camera angles and options for car setup, likening it to PlayStation games. They note a lack of engine failures and damage, leaning towards arcade style, but praise the customization options. Screenshots show Monza, Silverstone and Spa course selections, and the Ferrari zooming down the track. The verdict section awards F1 pole position an overall score of 80%. Graphics receive 77, praised for weather effects but criticized for pop-up. Sound is rated 60, described as nothing special but with the usual F1 sounds. Playability gets 82, with the reviewer suggesting fans of F1 will enjoy it. Credits are provided as Ubisoft as the publisher, Human as the developer, and the game being a racing type. The next page features a review of Bomberman 64, questioning how the classic character will fare in 3D. The article highlights Bomberman's popularity and Japanese origins, noting his debut on the PC Engine, TurboGrafx in America. It emphasizes the simple yet addictive multiplayer gameplay involving maze navigation, power-ups, and bombs, suggesting the core idea is perfect as is. The review mentions most versions being 4-player, with some supporting up to 10, and includes several screenshots of the 3D gameplay. This page dives into a review of Bomberman 64 for the Nintendo 64. The review poses the question of how Bomberman will translate into 3D. It admits the graphics may not stun, but the gameplay remains addictive. It also touches on the multiplayer aspect, needing multi-taps for up to 10 players. The page also includes several screenshots showing Bomberman in action in a 3D environment, facing enemies, and exploring various landscapes. The next page continues the Bomberman 64 review. Nick laments that Hudson has upset the balance of Bomberman by making it 3D, stating the game is more about luck than tactics and not near the perfection of previous incarnations. He also thinks that Bomberman 64 is one of the biggest letdowns of the year. The review highlights that the gameplay is now more strategic, with a need for much more exploration. The control over the camera is similar to Mario 64. Screenshots show various 3D environments and gameplay, and there is also an image of the game's logo and start screen. This page continues the Bomberman 64 review, and the reviewer, Justin, seems to be one of the few people who actually liked the one-player mode in the original Bomberman. He thinks the solo game in Bomberman 64 is good, although the addition of puzzle elements makes it less action-oriented and sometimes frustrating. He's not as keen on the multiplayer mode, finding it less playable than the original, with levels that are too complicated and Bomberman obscured by the scenery. Still, he says it's great fun with friends, but not quite what he expected from a 64-bit Bomberman, adding that fans of the original may be disappointed, but newcomers might enjoy it. Screenshots display various 3D environments, power-ups hidden in wooden crates, and some climbing sections. The page shows off the level select screen, showcasing Scenic World, Green Garden, Castle World, Blue Resort, Fire World, Red Mountain, and Ice World, White Ice. The reviewer humorously comments on how the names of the worlds are in Japanese, and jokes that he can't tell you what they are, but offers his best guesses. The next page continues the Bomberman 64 review. The reviewer is not a fan of the 3D multiplayer, feeling the levels are overcomplicated and stray too far from the simplicity of the original Bomberman formula, resulting in an alien style of gameplay. The review suggests even skilled Bomberman players might struggle with the 3D stages and find themselves panicking while trying to hurl bombs. Screenshots depict various 3D environments and multiplayer madness. Besser. This page continues the Bomberman 64 review, and the reviewer isn't holding back. They suggest the multiplayer experience is flawed due to small characters and stages that promote haphazard bomb throwing instead of strategic gameplay. The single-player game fares somewhat better, although irritating camera angles are a concern. The verdict box scores the game as follows. Graphics get an 80, sound a 79, and overall a 72. The reviewer concludes that only one player mode will be worth playing. The next page presents a review of GoldenEye World Soccer 3 on the N64, comparing it to International Superstar Soccer, ISS, 64. The reviewer feels it is an improvement over ISS 64, mentioning smoother graphics, more fluidity in player movement, and more dominant goalkeepers. They note that the speed of the game is noticeably faster and smoother than its predecessor. There are some screenshots from the game showing the action and one of a player. The reviewer also mentions Konami's success in the football game genre, contrasting it with a game called Dynamite Soccer, and also references FIFA 64. This page is a review of GoldenEye World Soccer 3 on the Nintendo 64. The reviewer believes Konami has somehow improved on the original's gameplay with new teams like Iran, Canada, Australia and Paraguay. They praise the improved goalkeeper AI that makes scoring skillful goals more rewarding, and also touches on the replay feature. The reviewer summarizes it as a touched-up version of ISS, and delivers impressive scores: 95 for graphics, 93 for sound, docked points for being in Japanese, and 97 each for playability and overall. The next page is a review of Top Gear Rally for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer mentions that Top Gear on the SNES was a hit, but the sequels didn't match the original. They question if Top Gear Rally can be successful and capture the gameplay of the original, noting the two-player mode was unique at the time. The reviewer praises the options screen and car select screen. The game includes a split-screen mode for two players to go head-to-head on any track they choose. The next page reviews Top Gear Rally on the Nintendo 64. The reviewer praises the game's graphics, particularly the long draw distances. They highlight the 3 different viewpoints available. The gameplay includes shortcuts, but unlike Multi-Racing Championship, the game doesn't warn you about them. The reviewer also mentions the 5 included tracks are quite lengthy, and the game's championship mode with varying weather conditions. This page is a review of Top Gear Rally for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer, Nick, initially felt dread at the prospect of another N64 racer, but finds this one competent, with smooth graphics and realistic car handling. The paint shop feature is highlighted as surprisingly enjoyable, allowing players to customize their vehicles with text, numbers and logos. The game has split-screen head-to-head mode. The reviewer praises the smooth graphics and solid visuals, with no unnecessary fogging. Although hoping for a Sega Rally rival, he found the computer-controlled cars disappointing. The next page features a review of Top Gear Rally for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer notes the difficulty in seeing the track in adverse weather conditions, and the unavailability of sunny weather in two-player mode. Screenshots show various gameplay moments, including driving the wrong way and navigating the jungle course. The reviewer praises the paint shop feature, allowing extensive car customization. They also highlight the multiple routes throughout the tracks, mentioning a custom fire car with skull motifs. However, they point out slowdown issues when too much action occurs on screen. This page continues the review of Top Gear Rally on the Nintendo 64. The reviewer humorously suggests using the rearview mirror for applying makeup. They note that crashing into things can leave you stuck, and the snow makes the handling tricky. A particular criticism is leveled at the split-screen mode, describing it as a cunning attempt. Where the sunny weather option has been removed, the fog impairs the vision so badly that it renders the game unplayable. Screenshots showcase the various weather conditions in the game, like a sunny day, fog, snow, rain and night. This page features a review of Top Gear Rally for the N64, continuing from the previous page. The reviewer praises the single-player mode's graphics and tracks, but criticizes the dodgy two-player mode. They highlight a strange glitch, where scraping against the side doesn't slow the car down. The verdict gives the game scores: 90 for graphics, 80 for sound, and 82 overall, noting it's excellent in single-player, but let down by the multiplayer. The name, publisher, developer, player number, release date, game type and version are noted in a verdict box. Screenshots of the game are displayed. Also shown are the 5 of the 9 cars which are available after unlocking them. The reviewer questions if it surpasses Multi-Racing Championship, concluding it is only slightly better in single-player but much worse in two-player mode. The next page is a review of Dynamite Soccer for the N64. The reviewer starts by questioning if it can compete with ISS Soccer. They quickly establish that the game is very poor, comparing its graphics to a SNES title like Super Soccer. They mention the other two football games for the N64, International Superstar Soccer 64 and FIFA 64, noting the contrasting reception each received. The reviewer describes the camera angle and overall presentation of the game as bad, criticizing the graphics and comparing them to the old SNES game, Super Soccer. They find the view useful only when shooting towards the screen. Fic. This page continues the Dynamite Soccer review for the N64, and the summary continues to be scathing. The reviewer questions if the developer has ever seen a football match, noting that the players all charge after the ball like a bunch of 7-year-olds. They also criticize some collision detection, describing tackles as bone-crunching. A screenshot shows a referee issuing a red card. A screenshot of a Game Boy soccer game is shown with the caption, "Jumpers as goalposts." The next page is a Total 64 review of Dynamite Soccer. The reviewer, Ali, states that he can't find anything positive to say about the game, and that it's so bad it's funny, but the humor wears off after a few minutes. The reviewer says that the game is a step back about 8 years, and that people shouldn't waste their money. Several screenshots show gameplay, and each are given a short scathing caption. The reviewer complains about the AI, the tackling, and goalkeepers. He compares the ball's movement to a cheap plastic toy. Also featured are classic football games Match Day 2, Microprose Soccer, and Kickoff. This page is a continuation of the Dynamite Soccer review. It begins with a brief history of football video games, referencing titles like Sensible Soccer, FIFA Soccer, ISS Deluxe, and ISS 64. The reviewer, Ali, remains unimpressed with Dynamite Soccer, highlighting issues with the ball physics and eye, and outright forbids readers to buy it. The review culminates in a verdict box, giving Dynamite Soccer scores of 30 for graphics, 40 for sound, and a measly 20 overall, alongside a final score of 25. The next page presents a review of Doom 64, the original and daddy of first-person shooters, as the text suggests. The review opens with playful sarcasm, before acknowledging the game's legacy. The page features the Doom 64 logo prominently, complete with its demonic imagery, and screenshots that showcase the game's eerie green corridors and ominous environments. This page continues the Doom 64 review, with the reviewer acknowledging Doom's place in video game history and poking fun at the idea of a 32-bit game on the N64. They mention that while this isn't just a straight port, it sticks to the original Doom formula a little too rigidly, with the familiar routine of navigating levels, killing demons, and finding keys. Games like Duke Nukem 3D and Quake are name-dropped as examples of the evolution of the first-person shooter genre. The reviewer laments the lack of innovation in Doom 64, particularly the absence of features like jumping, ducking, and looking up or down. The page includes screenshots showing the game's visuals and an image of a Doom Marine. This page continues the Doom 64 review, diving into the game's arsenal with a Big Guns section. It showcases weapons like the BFG 2000, Blue Frog Gravy, Chain Gun, Chainsaw, Double Shotgun, and the oddball driving gloves. There's even a new weapon, the Demon Laser. The reviewer mentions that while Doom 64 environments are dark and depressing, they are taking the gloomy satanic style of the original as inspiration. The AI is improved, enemies don't wait in rooms, but it lacks the intelligence seen in GoldenEye. The page also poses the question about why the games couldn't incorporate a few ideas from Quake, and mentions how the enemies flip around due to the sprites. This page features a review of Doom 64, declaring, "I love your demon eyes." It highlights new characters and improved demonic visuals rendered in 3D Studio. The review showcases various enemies like the Cacodemon, Cyberdemon, Bull Demon, Baron of Hell, Zombie Man, Shotgun Guy, Imp, Nightmare Imp, and Lost Soul, describing their unique characteristics and attack styles, mentioning that although the game has a brightness option, it should be played in a dark room. The review also praises the game's atmosphere and sound design, noting the unsettling ambience created by moans, wails, and the sound of crying babies. The reviewer notes the gameplay has remained identical to the original Doom, and states that the lack of a multiplayer option is a significant drawback, especially given the popularity of GoldenEye Deathmatch at the time. The verdict gives the game a graphic score of 93, sound of 90, playability of 85, and an overall score of 89. The bottom of the page states this is Total 64 Volume 1, Issue 9, and the page number is 73. This page is a reviews roundup, featuring short reviews and scores for various N64 games. Blastcore is reviewed favorably, praising its puzzle solving and explosions. Cruisin' USA is criticized as a poor arcade conversion. Dark Rift gets a nod as the best beat-em-up on the N64, but falls short of PlayStation and Saturn titles. Doom 64 is hailed as a great addition to the series, a review likely following the one that was just given. Doraemon is compared to Mario 64, acknowledging its quirky ideas but overshadowed by familiar concepts. FIFA 64 is reviewed, noting Konami's ISS Soccer 64 outshines it. Ganbare Goemon 5 is previewed with concerns about its Japanese text and potential lack of English release. Scores are given as issue score and current score. The next page continues the reviews roundup theme. We start with Go! Troublemakers, a game that the reviewer enjoys despite not understanding it, praising its bright colors but acknowledging the language barrier. Next up is GoldenEye 007, which changed the reviewer's mind on first-person shooters. Hexen 64 is criticized as a dated PC port, with a poor review score. Human Grand Prix is marked down compared to other racing titles, while International Superstar Soccer 64 receives high praise as the best football game on the system. J-League Perfect Striker gets a positive review with emphasis on comedic animations. Killer Instinct Gold is praised for its speed but criticized for slowdown. Unipay. This page features more game reviews from Total 64. King of Pro Baseball is reviewed, with its score dropping due to the difficulty of finding a human player. Next up is Lilat Wars, which the reviewer enjoys. Mario Kart 64 is said to be a good game, but perhaps not worth buying if you own the original. Pilot Wing 64 gets a good review, though it is noted that the office preferred Blast Corps. Multi-Racing Championship is not as good as the reviewer hoped, and NBA Hang Time is also reviewed, with the reviewer finding it repetitive. Mortal Kombat Trilogy receives a low score due to the arrival of newer games. Shindu Mario 64 has the reviewer confused as to why it exists. This page features a Roundup 64 reviews section. Shindu Wave Race 64 gets a 93%, with the reviewer questioning the rumble feature. Star Fox 64 scores 96%, praised for its multiplayer. Super Mario 64 also gets 96%, described as living up to the hype. St. Andrews Golf receives a mixed reception, scoring 96% initially, but now only 42% because of its lack of replayability. Tetrasphere gets an 84%, noted for its addictive gameplay once mastered. Finally, Star Wars. Shadows of the Empire gets 61% initially, and now 49%, with the reviewer advising readers to avoid it. The next page presents another roundup of game reviews. Turok. Dinosaur Hunter scores 93% initially, and 89% currently, criticized for becoming repetitive despite its initial appeal. Wave Race 64 gets a solid 96%, praised for its originality and playability, only missing a Pamela Anderson lookalike to complete the experience. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey earns 90% initially, and 82% currently, considered the best ice hockey game but potentially boring for non-fans. War Gods receives a score of 76%, with the reviewer lamenting the lack of a good beat-em-up on the N64 and criticizing its dated Mortal Kombat-style gameplay. Wonder Project J2 scores 69%, with the reviewer humorously complaining about the game being too realistic in its portrayal of Japanese culture and language, recommending fluency in Japanese before playing. This page is a full-page advert for NFL Quarterback Club 98. It touts all-American NFL action in the most impressive game ever from Acclaim Entertainment. It states to take it to the extreme. The next page kicks off a feature called The Art O, which is all about beat-em-up games. The writer takes us back 15 years to the rise of the beat-em-up genre, its roots in the early 80s, and how it's evolved into the 3D fighting games we're seeing today. Screenshots from the ZX Spectrum title, Way of the Exploding Fist, and Commodore 64 game Barbarian are also featured. Good times. This page continues the beat-em-up feature, reminiscing about the early days of fighting games on 8-bit computers. It mentions Way of the Exploding Fist as a key title that started it all, highlighting its karate-style fighting and the unique yin-yang symbol system for awarding moves. The feature also touches on Ye Kung Fu as an arcade innovation with its Rescue the Princess storyline. The author notes the arrival of power bars and special moves, while pointing out the lack of blocking techniques in early games. International Karate Plus gets a nod for its 3-player fighting mode, and the article concludes by mentioning traditional Japanese weapons appearing in games. The next page focuses on the impact of Street Fighter II, calling it arguably the ultimate 2D fighting game. The writer believes Capcom perfected the genre with this release, noting that sequels felt like rehashes. They also mentioned the debate around Mortal Kombat offering a more realistic fighting experience, but concede that Street Fighter II's arcade qualities and fluid controls made it superior. The game's accidental innovation of combo systems due to a glitch is discussed, alongside accessible moves and strong character designs. The page includes images from Street Fighter II, showcasing Ryu, Ken and Chun-Li. It also features screenshots and a caption that highlights the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku move, which translates to Hurricane Kick. This page discusses 3 fighting games: Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter, and Mace: The Dark Age. Mortal Kombat, released after Street Fighter, aimed for realism with digitized characters and combos, but suffered from jerky controls and controversial gore. It borrowed from Capcom, but the graphic violence, which led to its removal from the SNES, proved popular. Virtua Fighter, the first polygon-based fighting game, shifted the genre with a more realistic fighting style, using motion capture and a 4-button system for more instinctive gameplay. Finally, Mace: The Dark Age built upon Virtua Fighter's innovations by adding interactive arenas. This page is a feature on beat-em-up games. It starts by discussing how the genre is evolving, and mentions that the direction is unclear, as developers are hesitant to take risks. It references Capcom's Street Fighter III, suggesting they played it safe with a 2D version instead of pushing the boundaries. The page then discusses Toshinden, which took inspiration from Virtua Fighter and Tekken, incorporating polygon graphics and sidestep buttons. It then moves on to Squaresoft's Bushido Blade, highlighting its 3D environments and focus on traditional Japanese sword fighting, with a fighting style more about defense than attack. The article suggests that Bushido Blade is innovative and could be the next direction for fighting games. The next page is a full-page advert from Excitement Direct, a Nintendo specialist offering fast delivery. They're selling 64 consoles, games like GoldenEye, Lilat Wars, and accessories. Plus, they offer a guarantee on their machines and promise free delivery within 2 days. The advert also has an order form. T-Ray. The next page features extras, proclaiming a Jolt Pack Central, highlighting the Thunder Pack, Action Replay, and Tremor Pack as alternatives to the official Nintendo Rumble Pack. The Thunder Pack is described as a near-identical copy of the Nintendo Rumble Pack, lacking new features. The Action Replay is praised as a cheat system and memory card manager. The Tremor Pack offers adjustable vibration but is larger, and requires batteries. This page is a full-page advertisement for Madeira Games, an import specialist. It advertises us machines in stock now for the Nintendo 64, with titles like Mario Kart, Top Gear Rally, Wave Race, Blast Corps Mission, Impossible, Hexen 64, Clay Fighter, Go! Troublemakers, Multi-Racing, GoldenEye, Doom 64, Star Fox 64, War Gods, and Dark Rift available. Guaranteed next-day delivery is offered. Also shown is a Total Internet magazine advertisement, a magazine to help you get online, out in November. The next page is The Firing Line, a letters section sponsored by Fire International, suppliers of video game accessories. Readers write in with their questions, grumbles and opinions about the N64. One reader, David Waller, thinks Nintendo's policy on game lifespan is all wrong, preferring harder games with more to discover. He asks if he'll enjoy Dark Rift, despite the reviewer's criticisms of originality, given he hasn't played Soul Blade or Tekken. The truth's response is, Nintendo games are normally fairly easy, and the secrets in Nintendo games can be very challenging, and he might enjoy Dark Rift, even though it doesn't offer anything new compared to Tekken or Soul Blade. Another reader, a Kareem, complains about the cheap cardboard packaging of N64 games, suggesting a solid plastic case like PlayStation games. The Truth acknowledges the issue but notes that the magazine staff are more concerned with the game itself, and suggests keeping the box separate in a safe place to preserve it, and give more value when selling or exchange it. Ben Whitfield asks about the European release date of Doom 64, whether Wave Race and Mario will be re-released with the Jolt Pack, and if there are any unreleased Turok cheats. This page contains more letters and responses in the Firing Line letters section. One reader, Luke Slater, has 10 quick questions regarding the 64DD release date, the reviewer's favorite game, Duke Nukem 64, Tomb Raider 64, comparing consoles, and release dates. The Truth responds with release info, opinions, and jokes, including telling the reader the batteries have run out of their calculators. Daniel Packwood praises the mag and asks for help finding the last star in Super Mario 64 and a game recommendation for Christmas. The Truth provides a tip for the Princess Slide Star. Antonino Mingoya discusses console competition, piracy, and cartridges versus CDs. The Truth acknowledges piracy on PlayStation, but notes N64 isn't immune, and points out loading times as a benefit of crids over cartridges, stating, "Cartridge rules, okay." The next page continues, the firing line letters. Mudfish from Leeds asks about the difference between PAL and import versions of GoldenEye. The Truth explains, the import version costs more, but is worth it, and the PAL version should be available soon. Stuart Mackenzie from Aberdeenshire shares a story of receiving a Nintendo 64 for their birthday. The Truth congratulates them and suggests getting an extra controller for their dad to play ISS 64. Neil Gibbons writes a wet letter from their yellow submarine, asking about posters, thanking them for the Star Wars warning, and questioning whether Mario 642 will be on the N64 or 64 DD. The Truth confirms more posters, says no problem about the Star Wars issue, and notes, Mario 64 sequel will likely be on the 64 DD. D. Hill asks about a Jurassic Park game for the 64, and a review of Lamborghini 64. The Truth confirms, a Lamborghini 64 review is coming, and there is no Jurassic Park game. Also on the page is the Hot as Toast section listing trending topics, such as features for Mario 64, Part 2, desired add-ons, and content for Total 64, and Cold as Ice, listing cold topics, such as the 64DD release date, console comparisons, and N64 price drop moans. This page continues, the firing line letters. Chris Quayle from Canterbury expresses concerns over shortcuts in Mario Kart 64 spoiling the game, questions the accuracy of the Star Fox 64 review regarding two-player battle mode, and questions the high score given to GoldenEye and the future score of Zelda 64, while jokingly asking about the 64DD release date. The Truth responds regarding the cheats, confirms the story mode comment directed at the story mode not battle mode, states that GoldenEye is better than ISS 64 and Mario 64, and comments on looking forward to Zelda 64. The rest of the page consists of the Pix Win Prizes section showcasing fan art submissions, including entries from Elliot Rubio, Toby Moses, Mark Myers, Christopher Bolshaw, Jonathan Gordon, and Martin Luis Manuel. Alexander Martin is announced as the month subscription winner. Warrington. The next page continues with the firing line letters, featuring opinions from Nick Morar of Surrey, who questions the Shadows of the Empire score, and wonders why there are so many controller options for the N64. The Truth responds that Shadows of the Empire didn't do the license justice, and different companies produce different controllers. Philip Strong of Leeds is getting a N64 for Christmas, and has a funny story about his mum hoovering his old SNES Mario Kart cartridge. The Truth responds with a bit of motherly advice and mentions their anticipation for Resident Evil on the N64, but states they have not heard any encouraging rumors. Benji Gogan from Dublin complains about shoddy software, and expresses his love for Wave Race and Mario 64, and wonders about the mirror room trick in Mario 64. The Truth responds with comments about Nintendo's quality control, suggests Mace, the Dark Age as a decent fighter, and discusses the future of the N64. David Foreman from Bury St Edmunds expresses his anger at NBA Hangtime, and suggests other sports games. The Truth responds with a focus on NBA Hangtime, and hopes for sports games. This page showcases a full-page advertisement from Blaze, promoting various Ultra 64 accessories. The ad features memory cards, the SFX 64 game adapter for playing import games, controller extension cables, and several types of AV cables. It boasts about enhanced picture quality and compatibility. The contact details for Fire International Limited are listed at the bottom. Cheshire. The next page delves into reader letters and high scores. It's noted that Trevor Scannell's dominance in times and trick scores is being challenged by Norman Obaseki and Jason Madigan in Making Waves. The page encourages readers to send in photos as proof of their scores. There's also a section for Star Fox/Lilat Wars scores, with Aaron Taylor dominating. Ben McBean makes a couple of appearances, but the request for more scores is loud and clear. This page introduces a new high scores section for Mario Kart 64, fueled by reader submissions. The total 64 teams' times were deemed beatable, and Juan Bas Bionda from the Netherlands apparently did just that, taking almost all of them. The page then lists the top times for different courses, from Luigi Raceway to Rainbow Road, with names like Ricky Pearson, Jason King, Tristan McCallum, Justin Calvert and of course Bas Beyonder, claiming the fastest laps and race times across both UK and US versions. Lastly, the page launches a high score section for GoldenEye 007, recognizing the potential difference in times between the UK and US versions. They plan to separate the leaderboards. Any level, any agent. They encourage readers to submit their times, with photographic evidence naturally. A list of times for levels such as dam, facility, runway and more are shown, all set by Justin Calvert and Nick Jones. The next page is a feature on Shigeru Miyamoto, calling him a living legend, no less. It delves into his history, starting with the Donkey Kong series, which was almost called Monkey Kong due to a typing error. Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. Are also mentioned as some of Miyamoto's classics. The page also features screenshots from Mario 64, which the writer boldly claims is the best game of all time. This page is a continuation of the Shigeru Miyamoto Legend feature. It covers Super Mario World, describing it as perfectly structured with a superb learning curve and still the finest SNES game ever. Screenshots of the game are included, showing the overworld and gameplay. The feature then moves on to Pilotwings 64, noting its impressive graphics at the time. The writer explains that it introduced flight sims to an audience that might not normally be interested, and it includes screenshots of various Pilotwings 64 scenarios. The article states that whilst Shigeru Miyamoto didn't develop the game, his near-perfect design could be enjoyed by both novice gamers and die-hard video game experts alike. This page continues the Shigeru Miyamoto feature, looking at his influence on the Nintendo 64 era. It kicks off with Phase Zero, calling the original a classic and the forerunner to titles like Wipeout and Extreme G. It notes the 3D effect achieved with the SNES Mode 7 trick, and shows screenshots from the game. Next up is Wave Race 64, described as having the most convincing water effects ever seen, and comparing it to real jet skiing without getting wet. This section includes screenshots from Wave Race 64. The article then talks about Miyamoto's string of successes, including F-Zero, Star Fox, Pilotwings, Mario Kart, and Zelda, A Link to the Past. It highlights Mario 64 as a groundbreaking title. It also touches on Pilotwings 64, and Mario Kart 64, and Star Fox, Lilac Wars in the UK. Finally, there's a few screenshots of Link. This page continues the look at Shigeru Miyamoto's influence, focusing on Super Mario Kart. It praises the game for its multiplayer experience and innovative power-ups. The page includes screenshots from the Nintendo 64 version, highlighting the enhanced visuals. There's a section titled A Link to the Future, which previews upcoming games, including Yoshi's Story, touted to have brand new ideas and quirky bonus levels, and F-Zero 64 promising lavish 3D gaming worlds. The text talks about Zelda 64, Ocarina of Time, noting its massive cartridge size, 256 megabits. The article also mentions Jungle Emperor Leo, a game based on a Japanese film, and Super Mario RPG 2. Finally, Mario 64 Part 2, Super Mario 64 2, is mentioned as Miyamoto's most ambitious project to date. The page concludes with a section on Super Mario Bros., calling it the game that changed the platform genre forever. There are some screenshots of the game and a large image of Mario at the bottom of the page. This page gives tips for multi-racing championship on the Nintendo 64. The page provides a track map with labeled points and corresponding advice for optimal racing lines, noting the different road conditions and optimal driving strategies for both on- and off-road vehicles. There is advice for each section of the track, including taking corners, shortcuts, and watching out for deer. The next page gives tips for multi-racing championship on the Nintendo 64, with track maps and advice for optimal racing lines. The downtown map highlights shortcuts, advising on power slides, grass sections, and jump preparations. Seaside offers tips for taking grass shortcuts, staying on the right side of the track after the tunnel, and nailing the off-road route to stay ahead. This page is the cover of Ultimate PC magazine featuring Men in Black, the game. It boasts a world-exclusive review, 2 free demo seeds with over 20 playable demos, including PC versions of Worms 2 and Sid Meier's Gettysburg. There's also an exclusive review of Panzer General 2, and promises over 25 other games reviewed and rated. The cover price is £3.50, and it also advertises a chance to win a P200 MMX PC. The next page is the cover of Ultimate PC magazine featuring Men in Black, the game. It highlights a world-exclusive review, 2 free demo seeds packed with over 20 demos, with PC versions of Worms 2 and Sid Meier's Gettysburg, an exclusive review of Panzer General 2, and promises over 25 other games reviewed and rated. The magazine is priced at £3.50 and also advertises a chance to win a P200 MMX PC. This page from Total 64 magazine dives into the cheat codes for N64 games, specifically for Cruisin' USA and Dark Rift. For Cruisin' USA, it provides codes to unlock levels, hidden cars, jeep, police car, school bus, and nitro boosts, plus a flashing lights and siren cheat for the police car and school bus. It warns you can only use the nitro boost once per checkpoint, so no spamming. Police car. Dark Rift gets some love, with codes to play as Sonok, Dimitron and Sonok, plus codes to view each character's ending. Character endings for Aaron, Demonica, Dimitron, Eve, Gore, Morphix, Nikki, Scarlet, Sonok, and Zenmaron can be unlocked. The next page is a cheat code bonanza for Doom 64 and Hexen 64. For Doom 64, there are level codes galore, categorized by skill level. Be gentle, I own Doom, bring it on, and watch me die. No shortage of demon-slaying options here. The page then offers the super password for Doom 64, which gives you everything, and the means to kill the last boss in 4 seconds. Then the magazine goes on to Hexen 64, which provides access to cheat menus for invincibility, walking through walls, level select, and more. It also offers ways to get all keys and full health. Screenshots of the game are also included. This page is a cheat code guide, starting with GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64. It lists level-specific cheats, activated by completing levels within certain time limits on specific difficulties. Cheats range from paintball mode to all guns. It also mentions weapon cheats, and how to unlock extra missions and multiplayer characters by completing the game on different difficulty levels. Next up is Killer Instinct Gold, with button combinations to unlock all options, see the ending credits, and play as the character Gargos, plus how to fight on the Sky stage. Finally, there's G-League/ISS Soccer, with codes to unlock new teams and enable big head players, making the gameplay nicely daft. The next page presents tips and cheats for several N64 games. First up is Mario Kart 64, detailing how to race against course ghosts, perform a boost trick, unlock mirrored tracks, and achieve a speed burst at the start. Then it switches to Pilot Wings 64, guiding players on where to find the Birdman stars across different levels, from Holiday Island to Arctic Island. It suggests using the jetpack to find these locations. Warrington next is NBA Hangtime, which includes player clone codes and hidden player codes. To access a clone, the guide states to enter the player's last name and 0000 as the PIN. It then gives you a long list of players and PIN numbers. You also get instructions on how to use the turbo, shoot, and pass buttons to enter secret play modes. It then offers more secret codes, including how to get big heads, huge heads, and turn on shot percentage. There are also button combinations for no tag arrow, no drift, rooftop jam, and All-American basketball. It finishes with instructions on how to select a random team and change Rodman's hair color. This page brings us more cheat codes and tips, starting with Shadows of the Empire, and suggesting that collecting all those challenge points might actually be worth it. I mean, who doesn't love a good Star Wars cash-in? Next up we have Super Mario 64, with some bizarre secrets. It covers hat tricks, and how to carry extra hats, suggesting heading to Snowman's Land, and using the teleporting trees to collect hats to use as weapons. There's also a tip on how to control the ending camera, if you plug in a second controller. And for those who like to carry rabbits around, there's a glitch to take the rabbit to other areas. Finally, a pro tip: punch butterflies to turn them into bombs, or 1UP mushrooms. Lastly, Tetrasphere has cheat codes activated by entering extra characters on the screen where you enter your name. You can unlock extra music with G, Alien's Head, Me Boy, a secret game by typing lines, a level select by entering Saturn, Spaceship, Rocket, Skull and Heart from left to right. You can also type in Vortex, hold the shoulder buttons, and press reset on your N64 to see the vortex, whatever that is. The next page kicks off with Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, complete with cheat codes for all sorts of mayhem. We're talking pen and ink mode, disco mode, infinite lives, gallery view, and unlimited ammo. After entering these cheats, you can access a cheat menu to toggle them on or off. Then it's on to Wave Race 64 tips. Apparently you can ride a dolphin if you're skilled enough. There's advice on unlocking reverse tracks, racking up massive scores by pausing at the right moment during stunts, and how to get both players using the same racer in two-player mode. There are some stunt tips, like the double flip, helicopter stunt and triple flip. Plus, dolphin tricks like handstands and backwards rides are detailed, along with the dolphin racer. Cheat. This page is a full-page advertisement for Total 64 magazine subscriptions, offering 12 copies for the price of 9. It features a picture of a football player on the cover. A form is included to subscribe with options for payment including check, postal order, Visa and Access. Fotochuku. The next page features back issues of Total 64, available for £4.95 each while stocks last. Included are Issue 1, which is now sold out, features Super Mario, Wave Race and Shadows of the Empire. Issue 2 features Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Issue 3 is sold out and features Doom 64, Blast Corps and FIFA 64. Issue 4 is sold out and features Star Fox 64 and ISS Soccer 64. Issue 5 features Mario Kart, War Gods and Wonder Project. Issue 6 features Hexen 64, Go! Go! Troublemakers. Issue 7 features Dark Rift, Multi-Racing Championship, and Issue 8 features GoldenEye and Ganbare Goemon. An order form to purchase the back issues is at the bottom. The next page is the cover for the latest issue of Total 64 magazine and teases what's inside. They're hyping up Silicon Valley, which they describe as having a nanobot evolution. There's also a preview of Duke Nukem 64, with the promise of bad language and unnecessary amounts of violence, which is what made Duke Nukem great. Reviews are on the way for NFL Quarterback Club and Diddy Kong's Racing, calling the latter Rare's answer to Mario Kart. The magazine will be on sale November 28th. This page is an advert from Special Reserve Discount Mail Order. They boast being market leaders in home computing and offer deals on Nintendo 64 consoles, games and accessories, PlayStation peripherals, and Game Boy Pocket systems. You could grab a N64 with a 3D controller for £139.99, or a Firepack version. Free gifts are available if you take a £6 membership and buy something. There's also a 0% interest pay later plan if you spend over £250. They have brick and mortar stores located in Bristol, Egham, Sawbridgeworth, Chelmsford, Nottingham and Upminster. The next page is the sign-off section, where Total 64 is looking for new writers to join the team. They want someone to sit between Nick and Alistair, who are glued to ISS Soccer 64 all day. If you think you have what it takes, send your CV and a sample review or preview. They have the address listed and some cartoon characters at the bottom of the page. The next page is a full-page advert for F1 Pole Position 64. The tagline claims, "In racing there is only one position," and it highlights the game's features such as 16 Grand Prix tracks and realistic gameplay. From Ubisoft Entertainment. This page is a full-page advert for MRC Multi-Racing Championship on the Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's high-speed action and customizable vehicles with review quotes praising it as the best racing game on 64.